Yo, what is going on, viewers of the tube? My name is Tyler, and on the 5th day of CryptoMas, my Chico gave to me 5 deck rare, 4 DigiX DAO, 3 Zcash, 2 private dash, and a ledger with some BTC. Yes, today is the last day of Chico's CryptoMas Riddle giveaway. And if you solved the riddle in today's episode and you're a subscriber and you comment the answer first, you'll win 5 Decred tokens or the equal value in any crypto you want. It's going to be such a Merry Christmas that even like Santa in the Slammer, we can get a carol going.
5 golden rings, 4 calling birds, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree.
I hope you were singing at home, jailbirds, because it's time for Chico Crypto. So there is something going on with banks, ERP systems, and blockchains that pretty much no one is paying attention to. The creation of consortiums within the trade finance industry. Basically the movement of money and goods between banks and corporations and other corporations. Now there are 5 leading consortiums in this arena, which quietly move over 16 trillion in trade value annually. They are Voltron, Marco Polo Network, WeTrade, eTrade Connect, and Comgo. And as we can see, each of the consortiums use either R3 Corda or Hyperledger Fabric, with Comgo being the only one using JP Morgan's Quorum. I could do an entire episode going into each of these consortiums, but one is proving to be moving faster and onboarding clients from all arenas of industry and finance. That is the Marco Polo Network. Going to their website, they have grown from just 16 members in April of this year when the consortium breakdown was put together to 40 members, including big new ones all onboarded within the last 3 months. Bank of America, BNY Mellon, funny how they show up everywhere in crypto, MasterCard, and Microsoft. The project leads of Marco Polo back in April were just R3 and TradeIX, but this has expanded, and the 3 project leads now are R3, TradeIX, and a new face, Oracle. But who is R3? R3 is the creators of the enterprise consortium chain, Corda. R3 uses all the buzzwords when talking about their platform, open source blockchain, core dApps, but they wrote a blog post just last month, and they finally admit that they are not decentralized. A fully private consortium chain while comparing itself with just 4 other blockchains: Quorum, Hyperledger, Fabric, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. Not Tron, not Binance Coin, not any of the other crap smart contract chains out there, just Bitcoin and Ethereum. So R3 Corda sounds like the main distributed ledger used by the Marco Polo Network. But who is this TradeIX? Well, this TradeIX got investments by many of the members of the network, ING leading Series A investments over a year ago. Further in the document, we can see another consortium member invested, BNP Paribas. More recently, TradeIX got another investment from Accenture on December 17th and will help them digitize global trade. Accenture joining Marco Polo soon? Now going to the TradeIX website and their section on Marco Polo, we can see it was actually launched by Trade and R3, and TradeIX is developing an end-to-end open account business network powered by the TIX platform and the Corda distributed ledger. So what is the TIX platform? Well, it is 4 things: TIX applications, TIX developer, TIX composer, and TIX core. So TIX says it's an open infrastructure, so I took to GitHub to see what they're working on. Well, no TIX core or TIX composer to see, but there is something that stands out: the R3 Corda Token SDK. What is the Token SDK? Well, this allows Corda app developers to build applications which use tokens. The SDK is comprised of 4 jars, Java archives. Number 1, contracts which contain the base types, states, and contracts. 2, workflows which contain flows for issuing, moving, and redeeming tokens, as well as utilities for the above operations. 3, money which contains token type definitions for various currencies. And 4, selection that contains both database and in-memory token selection of the fungible tokens. And below, the Token SDK is intended to replace the finance module from the core Corda repository. But before we get into that module, let's see who exactly is working on this with R3. Of course, many of the R3 team, including leading engineer Roger Willis. But if we scroll down, we can see a Ross Nicole, contributed of Dapper Labs. Who is this? Well, now he works at Corda, but previously he worked for Dapper Labs creating NFTs for CryptoKitties, and also began working on Dogecoin in 2014, and still to this day. He is an old school blockchain and coder, and R3 waved a bunch of money in his face to come to the dark side. I wonder who else? A few R3 employees down, we see Mike Hearn. If you don't know who he is, let's just go to his website. OG Google engineer who left in 2014 to work on Bitcoin and contributed massively to the code then, and was one of the few people to have email conversations with Satoshi. Continuing down the list, we see some developers from important enterprises like Facebook's Konstantinos Chakias. And if we go to his LinkedIn, he is the cryptographer and blockchain engineer for Libra. Lab 577, which created Dazzle digital asset shared ledger. 3 developers from SDX or 6 Digital Exchange, which is a Swiss stock exchange digital asset exchange. In March of this year, we learned that 6 was going to use R3 for their exchange. And now we can move on to what this Token SDK is and what exactly is the Corda financial module and what this SDK is going to replace. Well, going into Corda documentation and going to the financial model, we can get an idea. Amounts within Corda can be the standard JDK currency like dollar, euros, and other fiat monies, or an issued instance, aka a token, as we can see tokenizable asset info below. Now, finance obligations or payments on the Corda DLT are finalized using the Corda Settler. This was one of the first Corda apps and provides a framework for handling on-ledger settlement through off-ledger payments. These could be payments via cryptocurrencies subject to public blockchains, as well as via traditional payment systems like a bank API. Back in late 2018, R3 Corda released an explanation video of the settler, how it functioned using oracles, and used an example of payments done using the XRP network. And when this was released, R3 wrote a blog post about it and said this: "The deployment of the Corda settler and its support for XRP as a first settlement mechanism is an important step. While the settler will be open to all forms of crypto and traditional assets, this demonstration with XRP is the next logical step in showing how widespread acceptance and use of digital assets to transfer value and make payments can be achieved." Alright guys, I made a video on this before, and R3, they were running into major financial troubles in 2018. In June it was found out that they were going broke, even though raising over $100 million. Well, during this time, R3 was in a legal battle with the Riddle company over their claim to XRP tokens. Riddle was supposed to give them some XRP based on a deal made in early 2016. But Brad Garlinghouse said, nope, you are not getting those tokens when XRP pumped in 2017, on the basis that R3 hasn't created any technology and fulfilled their side of the deal. So R3 took them to court. Well, it seems like R3 was going to go under and wouldn't have had the funds to keep fighting Riddle in court for their rightful claim to those tokens. So the two worked an under-the-table deal where R3 would get their XRP tokens, aka money to stay afloat, if and only if XRP was a token integrated into Corda. If you want to check out that full story of that suit, the video is in the description, and I highly recommend you check it out. So a deal was made between the two. I wonder if XRP is still integrated into Corda settler code to this day. Well, going to the settler GitHub, we can see one of the R3's lead engineers, Roger Willis, made the last commit on October 25th of this year. Let's search by XRP. And yes, it does come up 40 times. And below, we can see XRP can be used as the payment rails. Going further below, we can see the repo structure, which contains 5 modules. Included is a Riddle one, which creates an off-ledger payment. But there is also a Swift GPI, which can also make an off-ledger payment. So if anyone tries to tell you Swift GPI is going to use the XRP network, they are BSing you. Swift GPI was not made to integrate with XRP, but an answer to their blockchain disruptions. It is known that these two are competitors, and a great comparison of what each payment settlement provides has been drawn up. Although in the beginning of the year, Swift GPI announced GPI Link, which would be able to integrate with blockchains, and for the proof of concept, they would be integrating with R3's Corda, which was demonstrated at Sibos this year. And we found out that XRP was not involved with Swift whatsoever. These are the slides from the POC. Little appetite for settlements in cryptocurrency. The GPI link does not enable XRP or any cryptocurrency settlement. Swift is not collaborating with Ripple in this POC. And then after Sibos, Swift released a brochure and said this about GPI Link. Swift believes that blockchain and distributed ledger technology, DLT, have significant potential and will influence the future of financial services industry. Recently, we thoroughly assessed the technology and concluded that it was not yet mature enough for cross-border payments. Well, just pulling out this graphical representation of GPI Link, it is literally just a connector between a B2B ecosystem and banks, aka traditional finance. It's a middleware, aka Oracle. And in this conference call about the POC, a Swift developer explained Swift GPI and Link.
So you can see there's 3 parties involved here. The Swift GPI box is actually manifested as an Oracle service on a Corda DLT network, and it would have access to the GPI link such that if you provided a UETR, then you can check to see whether the Oracle can check to see whether that particular payment has settled or not.
So yes, it's an Oracle service. And who is working with Swift? On their website, it says we work with banking tech leaders like Swift, helping connect banks to smart contracts with enterprise-grade oracles. I don't know, scroll up. Chainlink. It's not an if, maybe, but it is known Chainlink has been and is connected to Swift. Swift, they actually took a chance with R3 and XRP, but it wasn't mature enough or ready. Which, if you know what's going on with R3, you understand it's a bunch of malarkey, and Swift learned that. August 22nd, this article comes out about R3, how it's plagued by internal conflicts, fundamental disagreements over its core vision, causing frustration and delay. And this is according to insider sources. Sources close to R3 reportedly allege that there is a gulf between Corda's engineers and its senior management as regards the product's design and development. The engineers have purportedly lost faith in the technology itself, considering it to be functioning poorly and underscoring that it lacks scalability. They also point to the large bills for payments for cloud service providers. Well, since Corda is a private consortium chain, they have to pay for hosting and servers and nodes and everything else themselves. Unlike Ethereum or Bitcoin, where the public makes the infrastructure. Major weakness of R3? Finally, they bring up the cash crisis, had they not reached a settlement in 2018 with their then rival, Ripple. But now I want to get back to the TIX platform. Co-founder and CTO Andy Bertie was asked in 2017 what they are working on. And he said, we utilize blockchain technology to provide the irrefutable source of truth for our digital asset invoices. My first blockchain experience was with Bitcoin, where I dabbled with proof of existence models. The thought of stamping obfuscated or encrypted content into a public blockchain was a bit of fun after I lost out in the Mt. Gox debacle. And then this article written by their CMO shows exactly what their blockchain is. It's not one, but a DLT, because they are using R3 Corda, even though they said in 2017 they utilize blockchain technology. They don't, which their now CMO ends the article with this. The next time you sit through a sales pitch that begins with the words blockchain is the future, maybe you should ask about distributed ledger. This could help you see just how well the self-proclaimed guru or sales representative knows their subject. Well, maybe you should ask your co-founder and CTO why he used that tactic back in 2017 when describing how TradeIX works. And I quote, "We utilize blockchain technology to provide the irrefutable source of truth for our digital assets." Liar. But this attack is going to be common from these guys, R3, XRP, and more. with a fury, especially focused on the Ethereum blockchain and Hyperledger fabric. Why? These two are working to be interoperable with each other, and R3 knows they will fail against this. Just in November, R3 wrote a blog post, Corda versus Hyperledger versus Quorum versus Ethereum versus Bitcoin. In the article, they attack Hyperledger, citing clients have dropped it for R3. And then in this presentation, you can see and hear R3's attacks on Ethereum and Hyperledger.
One big global network with lots of different applications deployed to it. Ethereum is a global interoperable network. You can deploy multiple applications to it. But it works, as we all know, on the basis of global broadcast. Everybody processes every transaction. Everybody sees all data. So it has the right vision, multiple applications that can interoperate and share data and collaboratively and with a single global network. But it can't be applied as is to business, as we know. Anybody who's trying to apply that technology to business has to change it or customize it severely. Which brings us to the middle diagram. So we see some attempts to apply that model to business. But what we're beginning to see, and this is what we believe we can avoid with Corda because of the architecture we have, is what we're seeing is lots of separate business networks being deployed. So a fabric network here and another fabric network here, but they're not designed to interoperate.
And a beauty of a debate went down in April of this year, when current Enterprise Ethereum Working Group member and founder of Hyperledger Fabric and IBM Blockchain, John Wolpert, went on a podcast to debate R3 CTO Richard Jindal Brown.
So as you've got the mic, you're going to answer what is our traditionally customary first question, which is, what is blockchain and how does it work? And you've got 2 minutes.
Oh, of course, blockchain's a chain of blocks. No, sorry. It's an old joke. So again, to me, blockchain is, I'm not going to go into it's a distributed ledger, blah blah blah. I think Richard is far better at going through that in any way. For me, again, it's really just one part of an evolution of the internet towards a stateful internet. Now, some of my engineer colleagues will say that it's not really one of the layer 7, attributes of the internet itself. I'm actually not so sure. But regardless of where it sits on the technical stack, I do think that most humans are going to experience blockchain and Web3 in general as an upgrade to the internet, where we don't have to have companies siloing servers sitting around controlling state or memory and business logic, right? That we can do memory and business logic in more or less the same way that we experience passing messages right now with packets going back and forth between different routers. Now, the problem with that, of course, is, and the reason why it's taken us 50 years to even get close to it, is that managing state is a lot harder than managing passing messages. Message goes through a router, doesn't have to remember that it was, the router doesn't have to remember what it was before, what its state is now, and coordinate that state with millions of other routers. It simply takes it, it's reactive, right? It takes a thing, passes it on. Managing state, a lot harder. And the reason why I'm interested in Ethereum in particular is that while we can quibble over how decentralized it is, and I will argue anyone arguing that it isn't decentralized enough should go and help us make it more decentralized, because it's really the best shot at decentralization we have currently. I think of it as the if you're in a distributed system, the only way to really get managed coordinated state on functions, passing packets between, or passing parameters between state machines, is with a coordinating root state machine or shared state machine. And you don't want that thing to be, if we have that, we have the ability to have billions of n-lateral, bilateral, multilateral state machines working between individual parties, companies, coordinating without running into things like deadlocks and race conditions and non-determinism, and turning into a balkanized mess, which is where we're kind of going today. So if we can all work on the Ethereum mainnet as simply a table full of pinning contracts that coordinate many different kinds of state machines like Corda and Fabric and Tendermint or Tendermint-based networks, then they can all do different things purpose-built for different parties.
Yeah, John, sorry, you got 10 seconds.
Yeah. I'll stop there. I think you get the idea.
Richard?
Thanks. So I mean, John made a joke at the start, which is, of course, is obviously correct, that a blockchain is a chain of blocks. But I guess if I go a slightly different direction, why should anyone care, or what problem does it solve? And for me, and this was really kind of like the eye-opening, almost the eye-opening insight, or the eye-opening sort of monumental achievement of Bitcoin over 10 years ago, which has then been built on by a whole bunch of other platforms. For me, a blockchain or a blockchain-based system gives us something that has hitherto been almost impossible to achieve in technology or business, which is to enable multiple different computers controlled by different organizations that don't necessarily fully trust each other, to be in sync, to be in consensus about some facts their owners care about, in a way that allows you to know for sure that if your computer tells you something about, in the early days, how many Bitcoins there are in Ethereum, how much Ether there is and what rules you have to comply with to spend it, or more generally in other blockchains, any kind of business fact, a system that allows people who care about these shared facts to be able to see them on their computer and know for sure that their counterparts see the same thing, but without either everybody having to use the same computer, because then you'd have some central party that you'd have to trust, or without having some central point of authority that forces the updates on you, and which you have to take blindly and unquestioningly as the price for being sure that you're in sync with people. So when you net that down, or if you sort of summarize it again, it provides this really interesting balance where you have control, because it's your own computer that you trust, that is telling you what the facts are that you care about, trades, balances, deals, whatever they are. But you know for sure that where it matters, you're in sync with your counterparts, and the system's constructed in such a way that when something changes, an insurance contract goes into claim, or a derivative goes into default, or whatever it is, all the people who should be seeing that update all eventually see it, and they all reach the same conclusion, but without any one party having undue influence or power over the other, and without everybody having to cede control to some central entity or some cloud operator. So net, something that allows you to know for sure that what you see is what your counterpart sees, without having to cede unnecessary power or centralization to some third party that isn't you.
Excellent, very good.
And after listening to the debate podcast, which is over 1 hour long, I understand John schooled poor Richard. It's literally hard to listen to Richard, as he has no idea about decentralization, blockchain, or what the future is going to hold. Just the first question shows the difference between the two. John mentions it's one of the pieces of the stateful internet and will sit within the technical stack of the new internet. All Richard said is buzzwords, like it will enable us to do things we have never done before. What? Computers don't have to trust each other. Bitcoin, Ethereum, central authority. I have included the entire debate in the description if you want to enjoy John mopping the floor with Richard. And this fact of Corda's lack of vision or idea of where they are going shows up in some of their most recent pilot programs. Just 2 months ago, Accenture and SAP announced they would use Corda for central bank gross settlements. And just look, right here, the firm plans to create a DLT platform, which is interoperable with government-run payment systems. Rather than digital currency, it will utilize currency tokens as a proxy for central bank money. So no XRP. And I'm on the side of Enterprise Ethereum and Hyperledger. It has Basu, an enterprise Ethereum client. They benefit from the amount of innovation happening on public Ethereum, which is faster because of participation and developers, tens of thousands of them. And they have something R3 doesn't: access to the Ethereum main chain. That is why from that image of the top 5 consortiums, you will see their blockchain infrastructure eventually all become Ethereum and Hyperledger combos. And this tweet from John explains everything and why I'm invested in what I am. Bought some Chainlink. I'm slow but not stupid. not enough to be besotted. I'm on Team Internet, Team Build, and Team Enterprise Mainnet. Not so much Team HODL. Now on to figuring out how to run an Oracle rig. Cheers, viewers. I'll see you next time. And Merry Christmas. Don't forget that riddle.